Welcome to the Funeral Funds Life Insurance Podcast. I'm your host, Randy Vandervate from Funeral Funds of America, and you can find us at funeralfunds.com. That's funeral, F-U-N-D-S.com. Whether you're interested in term life, whole life, mortgage protection, annuities, disability, business continuation, or final expense life insurance, we have you covered. Our team of experienced professionals will guide you through the complexities of insurance products to help you make an informed decision. In this podcast, I'm going to be discussing burial insurance and Medicaid recipient planning. So, there's a number of senior citizens out there who have worked long and productive lives, and then towards the end of their life, they find themselves in some real financial need. And typically that means is they run out of money before they run out of month. And it could be from any number of things. It could be from that they never planned for this, or it could be they worked kind of entry, kind of low wage jobs their entire life, service industry, stuff like that. Good, honest work. But just didn't add up to a whole lot, and therefore they don't have a lot of Social Security, other income going into retirement. It could be that they were doing well and then they got sick and or injured or something like that, and they just all their funds just disappeared after 40, 50, 60, 70 years of hard work. And we just look at those people and go, but for the grace of God go I. So we've got a compassionate spot in our heart for people in this situation. And by the time you get to qualifying for Medicaid, you've got some real significant financial difficulties. And there are some things you have to watch out for when you're looking at buying burial insurance if you're on Medicaid. And let's face it, if you're going on Medicaid, you don't have money for a burial or a cremation or anything else. So that's why people are looking at this, and yet you'll talk with the Medicaid people, the representatives from the state, and they will have a lot to say about whole life insurance policies and the cash value within that policy counting towards asset limits. And there's a lot of misinformation. The state employees, they're good people too, but a lot of those are just salary workers and they're kind of there for the job. And they may not always completely understand what the rules are. So they'll give you wrong advice. But let's kind of start a little bit earlier, kind of, before you get to Medicaid. If you're looking at burial insurance, just don't wait until a health crisis happens or a financial crisis. Plan ahead and make some informed decisions. And that's going to help you kind of navigate the complexities of retirement and financial things that are going to happen, struggles, and also final expense insurance or burial insurance when Medicaid starts to factor in. The biggest challenge is, you know, once you get older, term life gets to be difficult. And, Medicaid would be 100% fine with term life because term life doesn't have cash value. The challenge with term life is that it gets expensive as you get older. And most people, as we get older, we get health issues. And a lot of those health issues are going to make you ineligible for term life insurance. Therefore, it's a very poor option for most people. And also, most of the term life insurance policies targeted at seniors go up in price every 5 years and cancel once you get beyond age 80. Not a great deal there too, because in so many cases, you're going to get priced out of the coverage, meaning it's just going to get so expensive as you get older, you're going to have to cancel it. And then the term life insurance companies kept all that money as profit, and you don't get any benefit, or your beneficiaries don't get any benefit when you pass away. Also, if you are blessed to live a long time, then you outlive the policy and the insurance company gets to keep all the money, and it's been all profit to them and they don't have to pay it out. So that's why term life insurance is less expensive. Sometimes people will say, I'll ask them, hey, do you want term life or whole life? And they go, I want term life. It's less expensive. And they have no concept of what the qualification periods are. And they also think that term life is going to last forever. No, it doesn't. It's going to terminate at some point. It's called term life insurance. Term, think of the word term and terminate. They both include the word term. That policy will terminate at some point in the future. It just depends on what type the policy is. So that leaves us with whole life insurance. And whole life insurance is what you would want for burial insurance because it's going to last all the way up until age 121 years. Nobody's ever outlived a whole life insurance policy yet. The challenge with that is whole life insurance builds up cash value. And cash value within a whole life insurance policy is considered an asset. And when you go on Medicaid, they've got asset restrictions. So typically the asset restrictions are you can't have more than $2,000 worth of assets. And it depends on the state. You're going to have to check your own state on that. Don't take me for my word. But on average, that's what it is. The other thing that happens is they have a look back period for the last 5 years, the last 60 months. And what they want to do is make sure that you didn't have assets in the last 5 years that you disposed of or gave away or tried to like hide from the system to keep that money, outside of the system. So what that could be is, well, maybe you had some property and you said, well, I don't want to like have to lose all the value in that property to qualify for Medicaid. So you give that over to a family member for free with the full intention that, you're still going to own it. And if you ever need to sell it, they're going to keep that money on the side type thing. That could be for large sums of cash too. If you had $10,000, you said, well, man, I don't want them to know about this and factor that in a deal. I'm going to pull out $10,000 and I'm just going to give it to my children and they're just going to hold it in a separate account for me and I'll still have access to it. The Medicaid people are going to look at, they're going to look back in the last 5 years because Medicaid is meant for people that truly need it and truly qualify for it. And if you got $10,000 in the bank or you've got pieces of property, you're probably not the ideal candidate at this point for Medicaid. And if you try hiding some of that stuff, it's called fraud. You don't want to do that. So keep in mind there are limits, income limits to qualify for Medicaid. I won't go into that, but just understand that the people from the state who are handling the Medicaid, they're going to freak out at cash value in a policy. And even if it's $1, they kind of freak out because they say that's an asset and you can't own it because it's an asset. Well, there is a number of things you can do. So if before 5 years, you can transfer ownership. I will probably direct you to our website. Well, I've got a really in-depth article on our website about this. It would probably be your best resource on how to take care of a number of these issues and how to get around that if you do have something going on. But bottom line, if you don't have cash value in the policy, then they don't care. So if there's cash value, you can borrow that money out. There's a whole number of things that you can do. And again, I would direct you back to that article on our website because we update that as new information comes available. But the first thing you want to do is just familiarize yourself with eligibility criteria for Medicaid. They do have specific income and asset limits that must be met. And if you understand the rules, you can play within the rules and qualify for Medicaid. And just understand that you don't want to get sneaky or tricky because the state's going to scrutinize all asset transfers, including ones made by non-applicant spouses, right? So they just want to ensure that no assets were gifted or sold for under fair market value, right? That's why I said, the property you just gave that to somebody, you transferred it over, or maybe it was worth $20,000 and, you sold it to them for $5,000, right? Trying to hide it. So they don't like that. So there's a couple things you should do. Number one is evaluate your final expense needs. Sometimes people in the situation, they want a big fancy burial, but they don't have a big fancy paycheck. And if you haven't taken care of this insurance or made other arrangements, then that's difficult because you're going to force your wishes on those around you who love you. And even though you never planned for this, you're going to make it their plan to pay for you. And A lot of people would say that's selfish. It's just, to me, I just think it's unfortunate that it's a lack of planning. We all know we're going to die someday. The challenge is we're so busy living, sometimes we forget about dying, right? So, you know, if you think that there may ever be a chance that you qualify for Medicaid, or you can see it coming off in the distance, maybe your spouse and you are just barely scraping by with 2 Social Security incomes, and you go, "Well, gosh, man, if something happens to one of us, we'll be on Medicaid." What you can do is you can just have the policy owner be somebody other than you. In that case, it would be okay for your children, or depending on the insurance company who could be the owner on that, to be able to do that and make the payments and everything. And but you'd have to do that 5 years out. You got to be very proactive on that. And a lot of people just aren't very proactive on that. And then the other thing you really should do is just compare all the policies and the different providers, and seek out the best information. And I really feel that we've got the best article on the internet about that. And again, we update that regularly. So there are some other things you can do that they're a little bit more involved, and they take a little bit more planning. But you can earlier in life, you can explore Medicaid compliant annuities. So certain annuities can be structured to protect assets, and there's things that you can do with assets. It's going to be on a state by state basis, and again, those time requirements, that 5-year thing's going to apply. You may want to consider an irrevocable trust. Placing assets in an irrevocable trust can shield them from Medicaid's asset limits. Check in your own state with your own accountant, and it's just so crucial to work with an attorney that's experienced in Medicaid planning when you're setting this stuff up. And also, if you do have a policy, they just care about the cash value. If there's no cash value, then they don't care about that. So say you had a $25,000 policy and it had $1,000 with the cash value. If you get rid of the cash value, then it's worth zero again. So but again, the policy will start to build cash value up at some point in the future as well. So just be aware, read our article. That's going to be the best one. So ultimately, at the end of the day, consult experts. And I'm not going to be your expert. I hope I'm going to be your starting point. And I hope the article that I wrote is going to be your starting point. But, check out, engage in the services, hire an elder law attorney, make sure you have a financial advisor, and then just, they can work with an insurance professional if necessary to see what can be done. But typically by the time you're on Medicaid, it's a little more difficult. And, but there's ways around it. Check out our article. So there you go. Burial insurance and Medicaid recipient planning. My name is Randy Vanderveen, and I hope this podcast has been helpful to you. Again, do check out our article on our website. I'll include it in the show notes. And Funeral Funds of America can help you qualify for first day coverage or benefits at funeralfunds.com. That's funeral, FUNDS.com. And our phone number is 888-862-9456. Nothing in this podcast should be construed as legal advice, but I tell you what, we will be blessed to help you with this in the future. Until that day comes, stay safe, take care, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.